Welcome to the Wildlife Wire. I'm Mark Searles,
And I'm Samantha Miller.
and this is your source for wildlife news and the people that make it.
Welcome to the Wildlife Wire.
I think it was actually
What?
welcome.
Welcome to the Wildlife Wire. We have an extra special spooky episode for you today.
Ooh.
Wow, thanks.
Oh, there's
Wow.
a third voice. Did you hear that? I didn't even do
That
that.
that is, we are being haunted by friends of Podpast. We have Ryan Sedgeley joining us from the Endangered Species Coalition, and we are going to get a little Halloweeny today. And I hope both of you are ready. You sound ready based on your ghost voices, I think.
I'm
that
super
I was
pumped.
hearing.
I'm all hopped up on candy corn.
You hopped up on Mountain Dew, ready to talk about spooky things. And we've got a ton of spooky things in wildlife, but nothing scares me more than the myths and mistruths, untruths we hear spread about our wild neighbors. And I think that we've got some spooky things we could talk about that aren't necessarily true. And, I thought maybe today we could start with the least controversial. Wolves.
Oh yeah,
Very
I have
scary.
never heard a myth or any controversy around wolves, so I'll be excited to hear what Ryan has to say about this, what he's
Oh,
pulling out the old hat.
yeah. Wolves are howling at the moon. People are turning into werewolves. It is October. And Ryan, what are we hearing about wolves in the world right now?
Oh my gosh, it's hard to choose. Um, yeah, and it is such a special thing when you get to hear the wolves out in the wild. All right. Well, one of the spookiest things about wolves that we hear, one of the myths and lies, is that wolves will seek people out and attack them,
Oh my
steal their
God.
baby from the crib.
Ah,
Much like dingoes. Yes, continue.
The reality is, though, is that wolf attacks on people are extremely rare. I think there's been like 2 in the last decade or so.
But that doesn't count children, right? Like they're definitely still
Oh.
eating all of the children.
Well, of course.
and dressing up as grandma to try to get
Yeah.
to.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
right. Very sneaky, those wolves. So you're telling me that there have only been 2 wolf kills on humans
I don't
since
even think
when?
it
In the
was
last 2
kills.
days? Or
I should have had that actual fact, but it's been like 2 people like injured by wolves in like two like a decade or so. It's crazy.
wow.
It's not even worth ever thinking about. And I think they were both up in Alaska and in the Arctic, and so
Those wolves are definitely a lot more dodgy.
oh yeah.
I have heard this fact before, and I believe it is there have been 2 people killed by wolves in the history of North America. And that is it. There is a period at the end of that sentence. One was a female jogger in Alaska, and that was a very freak accident. And it's pretty misunderstood. I think a lot of people are still looking for the reasons behind that particular incident. And then the other was a hunter, and I believe he was hunting around a food source in Canada. So wolves were actually
Saskatchewan.
Oh,
wow, breaking out the Canadian
oh
language
yeah, way up
there.
there.
Oh yeah. I heard that that wolf was coming to steal that man's Molson Ice.
Oh, there you go.
Whoa.
Not as Labatt's blue.
No, not the Labatts. They fear a man with Labatts.
Well, we love Canada, and I'm sad that this happened to this man either way. But that one is a presumed wolf-caused fatality. But we aren't for sure on that. And as far as right here in the continental United States, we've got none to report,
big
which
zero.
is crazy. So I've seen things like in Washington, they've actually built bus stops for children so they don't get eaten by the wolves. So they've used taxpayer dollars, I'm assuming, to build these little bus stops. And I've heard that New Mexico and California counties are declaring states of emergency because of these vicious wolves. And yet, you want to know what I heard that's also true? This is
What's
true,
that?
not a myth. Cows are killing 22 people a year. The
No
cows
way.
are straight murderous. and we don't have any way to protect ourselves when they're grazing on public lands. And yet, we do have bus stops for children in wolf country. So thanks for sharing that fact with us, Ryan. I
Maybe it'll
appreciate it.
protect them from, the domestic dogs that are running loose, because they are a real hazard.
They can be a hazard. That they can be. Well, what else you got for us on wolves, Ryan?
Well, this other one plays right in along with that, that wolves, they kill for fun. That these
Ooh.
animals are out there just maniacally killing prey species for the heck of it, because they
Mm-hmm.
just find it fun.
Oh.
But of course, we know this is not true. And it's rooted in one example where there was a group of elk, I believe, stuck in the snow, and the wolves killed a number of them all at once.
No.
But this one incident where there was a bunch of elk buried in the snow, and they were probably like, "Oh man, free food! This is great," has perpetuated this myth so widely that the wolves are just going to kill for fun and decimate all the deer and elk.
Yeah, I have heard that the Northern Rockies has the strongest deer and elk population. Well, I haven't heard. This is science. I hate to keep laying facts on you, but the Northern Rockies have the strongest deer and elk populations they've had since wolf reintroduction. That those numbers are through the roof, and yet wolves are killing all of them. So it's
It's been called the second golden age of hunting. That's a quote.
Yeah,
It's what they've called it up there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does happen sometimes with other carnivores, especially like in a confined space where they say it's a chicken coop or a pen that they get into, and it's all of the commotion that's happening. They just like it's so stimulating that they end up killing more than they could eat at that time. But that's like that's different than going in for sport. Like that is a reactionary kind of event, and not this glory. I killed I killed 20 elk. How many did you kill? Kind of situation. And what's really fascinating to me too is it seems that we as a society are projecting what we do to animals onto these carnivores, and especially on wolves.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's funny, most people don't realize that hunting is actually pretty dangerous for wolves. They have a pretty low success rate ultimately, and many of them get injured or killed by the prey they're hunting. It's pretty scary to take on a giant elk when you're, a 100-pound wolf. Even as they hunt in groups, it's dangerous. That's why they only live 7 years generally out in the wild.
Well, yeah, and they're constantly weighing that risk, right? And weighing the calories too that it costs them to hunt because they have to survive out there. So
Yeah.
a lot of times wolves will have different prey species around them or going past them, and they are not ravenously killing them. They are waiting until the odds are more in their favor before they take any action, or until they are hungry enough to do that. So I think that's a good myth to bust.
Yeah. Killing zombie deer, which I hear you're going to tell us about later.
I will get to that,
Okay,
Ryan.
all right.
I will get to it later. I
Can't spoil a good
Sorry to spoil it.
good horror flick. Jeez.
will get to the zombies later.
Foreboding.
I want Ryan, I wanted you to tell us about the plague next.
Well, while we're on wolves, I did want to share
gosh,
something
okay.
the other
Go
day.
ahead, Mark.
So you were talking about how small or minimal the number of attacks are on people, but I went to the doctor the other day because I got bit by a wolf.
Oh,
and
okay.
and
Mhm.
she asked where, and I said no, it was a normal wolf.
Oh, wow. How long were you thinking about that joke, Mark?
Any good spooky story needs to have
You are a
that.
dad.
This is what we live with on our pod, everybody. Am I allowed to ask about the plague now, Mark?
You may
Or
move on to the plague.
are you sure? Because I want to make sure if you have any other dad jokes, you get them out of your system.
I'll see if I can sprinkle them in.
Okay, sounds good. So what you got for us on disease, Ryan?
Woo, yeah, disease. Okay. So, here's the myth that prairie dogs, they carry diseases that are dangerous to humans, in particular, the bubonic plague, which of course killed, was it millions of people? And
Yeah, seemed
yeah,
like a lot of people
there's
were
a lot of
dying.
people. Hmm.
Yeah, in all
So
sorts of bad ways.
it's a pretty awful way to die. It's a legit disease, and prairie dogs can carry it. They do contract it, and it's spread by fleas, not by the prairie dogs themselves.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate. Poor little guys get bit by a flea, and then it spreads, and sadly, within 2 to 4 days, 90 to 100% of the colony is dead.
Oh
Pretty quick.
no. Are
Yeah.
people catching this from prairie dogs at all? Like what is the truth behind this?
It's extremely rare for that transmission to happen from prairie dogs to people. You need to just basically, if you leave them alone, you leave the prairie dogs alone, you're not going to have an issue. And again, it's the fleas that you can catch it from. And thankfully, we have treatments for bubonic plague. It's something that is treatable, and you can not die of it. But you got to be careful.
Oh.
You don't want to catch it. It's still pretty nasty.
Yeah, and it people think that because prairie dogs are able to get these fleas that carry plague, that they're all running around with plague, but it's only like 2 to 4 days before the whole colony is wiped out. So the chances of getting into contact with any prairie dog should be pretty much zero. You shouldn't be going up prairie dog colonies. But even if you were, if they're alive, they probably don't have plague.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, prairie dogs seem like they have big vicious fangs and a lot of things I should be worried about. Is there anything else terrifying about prairie dogs that we should talk about?
Well, I mean, they're sweet little whistles, as they pop up out of their holes. That's pretty scary. Uh,
Sweet to you, creepy to me. It's like when the monster's coming, you just start hearing that whistle and you're like, huh?
no, run away, run away.
European explorers once called them the sound of the siren is captured within the prairie dog. No, I don't.
Oh my gosh.
No, you just made that up.
They were lured. They
were lured
didn't know
fully.
why they were wandering into that prairie dog town, but they couldn't resist it.
Well, which leads me to my next point. As they wandered in, the myth is that their cattle and their horses broke their legs and ankles stepping into the burrows of prairie dogs.
See, I knew the prairie dogs were killing something. And were they?
No.
Oh,
no, they
okay.
no, they weren't. No, they weren't. This is one of those things that on its face is just ridiculous. I mean, if this were true, there would be so many animals with broken ankles and legs from these prairie dog holes, and it's extremely rare.
Yeah.
In fact, my understanding is that it was a movie. There was a film, I think, in the 30s that showed it happening, and it was part of like the pest eradication program that the government was funding forever to basically eradicate anything that might even vaguely compete with livestock.
Yeah,
and it
sounds
just
like a good
was
propaganda film.
perpetuated. It was, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was John Wayne or somebody whose horse got stuck in a prairie dog hole, and it just stuck from it forever from that.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
Well, I am proud to report my horse has never broken a leg in a prairie dog hole yet. So knock on wood. I'm going to honor that superstition. Nor has my horse been attacked by a wolf up here in wolf country, so we're doing okay.
Doing okay. I mean, horses are nimble, and that's stupid. Neither are cows,
Right? Yeah. And I've never seen a bison, a deer, a coyote, elk around a prairie dog town limping around. Not once. And I spend a lot of time around prairie dog towns.
Well, you better watch out for the plague, Mark. How are you feeling?
I know. Well, oh God, here it comes.
Are you getting painful lumps?
If you're spending all of this time around prairie dog towns, then surely you've been stalked by the prairie dog's neighbor, coyote.
Of course.
Ooh.
Almost
a
daily.
known stalker and killer in the wild. I don't know about you, but I've heard coyotes stalk the suburbs. They're out there, they're attacking children, probably like wolves, but smaller, What's going on with those coyotes? Who are they attacking?
Yeah. Well, what's really interesting about coyotes and myths is that they are the animal that Native Americans had, like that they were the subject of like deity status throughout many different tribes in the American West and even into Mexico. And like they could have chosen, a deity to be a mountain lion or a bear or all these different things, but over and over again, the coyote was the one that rose to deity status. So there's all kinds of interesting myths and legends around coyote or coyotl, and the trickster is one of them. And what's really interesting, there's actually Dan Flores has gone into this about it's not that this this deity is to be this trickster and that's it. It's a lot of the stories around him were about uh, what people do. Like these are the actions that Coyote has taken. Coyote with a capital C is demonstrating some of our own faults and used it as a method of teaching uh, about things pitfalls that people have. So that was a little side note. I'll get into
Well,
what's
thanks.
happening. Yeah, I love a good tangent. Uh, but so one of the big ones is, that coyote is stalking me, or that coyote is stalking my dog, and I. This is one that I can sympathize with if you don't have the education,
Okay.
because a coyote will follow you, and if you don't know why that coyote is following you, I mean, any wild animal just keeping an eye and a slight distance behind you could be a little nerve-wracking. But the reason that coyote does this is it's called escorting, and it's done around their pup rearing season. And the coyote, typically it's dad. Dad is doing a really good job of being dad and is seeing you or your pet as a possible uh, threat to his babies. And so he is going to follow you until you've reached what he feels is a safe distance away from the den, and then turn around and go back to hunting and providing food for all of those
Wait,
pups.
wait, 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 wait. He turns around and goes back? I thought he follows you until you're alone and then pecks.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't hear those stories because all those people are dead.
Dead men tell no tales, Mark.
Right? I mean, it's the same kind of thing what Ryan was hitting on, hunting being dangerous. Uh, for a lone coyote to go after a grown human and his or her pet seems like a really risky endeavor when he could get a much easier meal from a mouse or a vole or a rabbit.
Yeah, sounds a lot safer to me.
I think so.
Unless it's a prairie dog with the big fangs,
And the giant hole.
Yeah. Anyone could fall in there, Mark. Anyone could fall in. Well, what else you got for us?
Yeah. So that goes along the same wolf kind of lines as they're going to come for our children and all of this. And anytime the vast majority of times when we hear about cases of a bite on a human, that is there's another story beneath it, right? And that's usually because people have been feeding that animal, or whether intentionally or not, and so they're getting associating humans with food and can change their behaviors and how close they will get to a person or interact with a person because of that feeding. And so that is not a coyote problem. That is a people problem.
Yeah.
So another good one that we hear often. In fact, I was doing a presentation today for fifth graders, and the teacher asked me about this earlier, and she was saying, why do they call? Why do they do their songs? Is it because they have just made a kill? Which I hear this one over and over again.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
And again, back to the dangers involved with hunting. We already have established that hunting's a risky endeavor, especially with any kind of larger animal. Why, if you had a successful hunt, would you announce it to all of your neighbors, being friend or foe? You don't want them showing up to take said meal from you.
So why do I hear a cacophony of coyotes if I'm in a canyon somewhere and there's like a billion coyotes all screaming? Why are they doing that, Mark? And why are there so many of them?
Well, I mean, you're throwing in an extra layer there with the canyon
Oh.
because there would be multiple Sams that I hear in a canyon, right? So even if you were to remove coyote from that canyon, you still may hear what sounds like many, many coyotes howling, but in fact, it is the bow jest effect, which is the way that they're able to modulate their vocals to sound like more animals than that are actually there. I have this really cool video of a coyote vocalizing directly into a trail camera that I had set up. He was about a foot away from it. And it's, if you close your eyes, you'd say that's multiple coyotes. And then you open them and you're like, oh, there he is. That's one. So, but they will, I mean, they're America's song dogs. So they do talk a lot, and it's not to celebrate a kill. It can be for a variety of reasons. It can be to just let the other coyotes know that are in the area, hey, I still live here. This is my territory. It could be that they, while they can live in small family units, they don't get nearly the pack size like the wolves do, but they don't spend 24/7 next to each other all the time, and so they may call each other to gather the family members because they may go hunt at that point. So that would be on the front end, not on the back end. They can vocalize for just for they do like little yippee sounds as an affectionate kind of thing. I mean, they have a large array of reasons and styles of vocalization that you'll hear, and that's why too you with the letting the neighbors know, the neighbor coyotes know, if you live in an urban area or any area that has, I know Sam doesn't live in an urban area, but she's got fire trucks right downtown, and they'll respond to that because it's hitting a right frequency that they're saying, that could be a coyote that's coming in my territory, so I'm going to respond back, just like your dog will do as well with a siren. So yeah, they sing a lot. There's less of them than you think there are. They don't live in these huge packs. I had a guy tabling the other day. He told me that he saw 15 surrounding his house the other day. I was like, okay, that's not true. And
he's not true in what he saw, Mark.
at 15, maybe five. Five is a doable number, and even possibly 15-ish could be reached in the end of pup rearing season, but you're clearly going to see that most are smaller than the other two or three. If another older sibling's still around, but that's it. Like, you're never going to see a large hunting party of coyotes out there.
Well,
And Mark,
Mark, go ahead, Brian.
I was gonna say, are coyotes kind of shapeshifters socially too, and that they're one of these unique animals that can live solitary and also in packs and kind of morph in and out of that as they need or choose to?
Yeah, they do like to I guess family dynamic shift, and so like people, they like to live in a family unit if possible, but they're completely cool with going out on their own. And that's, one reason why this sport killing of coyotes is hasn't worked because where a wolf pack is pretty easy once you've located them to take out the whole pack, but coyote is going to be able to evade human threats a bit better than most carnivorous species in the U.S.
Huh. Interesting. Well, I know we could talk about coyotes all day. Well, especially you
Well,
could
I
talk about
do. I
coyotes all
do.
day, and you do.
I'm Mark and I have a coyote problem.
But I did want to talk about another species that may get a bad rap and is completely different than our land-based species we've been discussing so far. And that's
I want to suck your blood.
exactly a vampire. Where are vampires living?
Hell, I believe.
Dracula's castle.
A coffin, maybe? Yeah, so vampire bats. We talked a bit about vampire bats when we had our bat expert on a few episodes back. And, you know, one thing, a myth right up front is that I think a lot of people think that all bats like to drink blood, and that's very far from the truth. Some eat fruits, most eat insects, and then the vampire bat will drink blood. The drink is the key verb in there. They don't suck your blood, right?
Oh,
No.
okay.
I know.
I know. Ryan and I are very disappointed about the
I know, but they have really sharp little
Ugh.
teeth, and so they will cut your skin. And I say your skin. Rarely do they feed on human blood. Usually, it's like livestock. So cows, horses, sometimes birds, other mammals, and so they will cut with their little razor teeth to get that little droplet of blood out, and then they drink it, right? So they're not sticking these massive teeth into you, which I never really understood with Dracula and vampires in general. Is,
Mm.
how is the sucking happen? Like, is the tooth hollow? Is it
Retractable fangs, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
Have you not seen Alien?
exactly.
That we need Sigourney Weaver on here next.
She can help dispel these myths for us. Continue.
Yeah, so they're drinking their blood, and and when they're drinking, they're not killing the animal that they're drinking the blood from. They're just getting a
Hmm.
little bit. Sometimes they don't, you don't even know, or a lot of times you don't even know that it's happening because it's such a tiny cut that is done with very, very sharp teeth that you just don't feel it. And so you would only see the wound afterwards, oftentimes, instead of like feeling your life force sucked out of your body.
Well, thanks for ruining that scary myth.
Yeah, aren't they pretty vicious though, Mark? I mean, it seems like if they're going around drinking blood, that these are just bats that want to kill everything.
Yeah.
Do they hunt in packs?
Yeah.
Are they like little
Little vampire
velociraptors?
pack?
Yeah.
Adorable. No, they are actually super social and highly intelligent. They like to groom each other.
Oh.
They will share food with other colony members, even if they're not related.
Oh.
Aw.
And they form long-term social bonds.
Well, I think you've just sold Ryan and I on loving vampire bats.
Yeah.
Oh, but they'll kill you.
But we'd like every second of it, Mark, so it's okay.
Maybe they'll fly in with a prairie dog and give you the plague. Dropping prairie dogs from the sky.
They're
Well,
working together.
That's actually how the holes in the prairie dog towns occur.
Of course.
They drop them and they're like little prairie dog bombs and they blow holes in the ground. And then immediately after a horse runs by and falls into that hole.
Right. They're attracted to it, obviously.
Death and carnage all the time.
Well, I have some scary but true things that I wanted to talk about. Are you guys ready for them? Because I know Ryan's super interested.
Yeah.
I like a good scary but true.
Scary but true. And my topic, my topic is zombies.
Ooh.
So the walking dead that walk amongst us in real life. And one of them is kind of cool. The other one's really scary. So I'll go scary and then we can end with a cool one. So, scary news. We know that deer and elk are getting the zombie disease. Da, da, da. And
go on.
They're basically eating brains. No, they're not. They're getting a disease that eats their brain.
Kind of opposite, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know. And so the disease actually impacts their brain in such a way that you can't tell that these deer and elk have this disease at first. But after time, it slowly erodes their brain, and it can also be spread across the landscape through prions, where they shed off and they go into the grass, and then it can live there for like years. And then any deer or elk that eats that grass can then get it too. And then it can just live in a bunch of herds. And it actually infects tons of our herds in Colorado. The majority of our herds actually have chronic wasting disease present. So we've got to watch out for it. It's not zoonotic yet, but towards the end stages of the disease, the brain is so wasted that the animal will actually start walking in circles. It may even drink water until it dies. So you get that creepy zombie action from deer and elk in the late stages of this disease before they die. Now, I know you're wondering, how do we cure this?
Well, first question.
Oh, okay, I'm ready.
So this is scary but true. Is this a myth that a zombie deer walking in circles is only walking on their hind legs with their front legs extended out to the front?
No, they actually do walk that way, Mark. They're using all four hooves on the ground until they die in circles. And this disease is similar to mad cow disease. So it does have that zoonotic potential. That means that one day it could transfer from deer and elk to humans that consume deer and elk. So it's
like
something
mad cow.
Much like mad cow disease. And so ultimately, if we were to ever realize the walking dead, it could very much be from humans eating deer and elk with chronic wasting disease, and then humans walk in circles after their brains completely rot because there is no cure for chronic wasting disease. But there are solutions.
Go on.
Remember those animals we talked about earlier, wolves? They have magic powers.
Oh, do tell.
Wolf sorcery, if you will. So
is this like
wolves,
these are your regular wolves,
cemetery? What are we getting into
not
here?
not werewolves, right? Yeah.
Werewolves versus zombie deer. Who will win? No, so wolves and cats actually will prey on animals with chronic wasting disease. They will eat these animals before they show signs or symptoms, which means they have a shorter span of ability to spread that virus onto the landscape. And wolves and cats don't catch the disease, so they don't end up walking in circles. So they do a huge ecosystem service by naturally predating on animals that are infected and then not passing that on to the landscape. So if a mountain lion eats an elk that has chronic wasting disease, that disease won't live on in lion scat like it does in deer and elk scat. So, like a deer, hug a lion. This is a good way to keep our herds healthy. And it's really our only ally in this.
Hug a lion.
Don't hug it. I mean, it wouldn't work out well. But this is a way that we can keep our herds healthy. And right now, it's really our only solution we have is let's let carnivores do their thing, and that will help keep our herds healthy for future generations. So cool solution. No kill.
Sam, don't wolves also spread the elk around, keeping them moving and keeping them from congregating in big numbers in the valley where, it just spreads mouth to mouth?
Oh my gosh, Ryan, that does bring up another solution and an issue where carnivores do move animals around. So when wolves are on the landscape, we see deer and elk behaving like deer and elk should. They're not just lollygagging in riparian areas, right by the river, destroying willows and bird and fish habitat. They are moving like animals that actually have predators on the landscape. Important. So it's good to stop disease spread because they're not congregating. But another thing that we see happening in states across the West is that we actually have feeding stations for deer and elk because hunters want to see more deer and elk to kill and eat. And those feeding stations then cause these herds to unnaturally congregate around food. So removing artificial feeding stations is another solution that state wildlife agencies can implement. That's a human solution. It is not something anyone is eager to implement because why address problems when we have them? So kill less wolves, feed less deer and elk artificially. They won't gather around in small areas in the West, and we might see less chronic wasting disease spread.
Woohoo!
The prions don't stand a chance.
Well, they're scary in themselves. Like, they're not
they're
alive, they're
creepy.
not dead. They're just like these weird folded proteins. It's
that live forever. Like
Yeah,
the fact that
really
they can
hard
live
to
in the
kill.
soil, it's really weird.
So weird.
Yeah. So, and two little tidbits here. So one, you had mentioned that the wolves and lions can eat them before we see symptoms. And the key is before humans see the symptoms.
That's true. Yes.
But they have a whole different way of interacting with their environment, and so they're clearly picking up on smells or something else that alerts them to these animals that have chronic wasting. And then the other bit too, while the hunters do benefit from these feeding areas, really the way they came about was ranchers were upset with elk feeding on their hay, and so they wanted them off of their land. And that's kind of the origin story of these big feed areas, especially like in states like Wyoming.
Yes, this is all true. Man is solving problems by creating more constantly.
That's our specialty. That's our superpower.
Well, women are unrightfully, we should be running the world, and for some reason we're not. So if you men could figure that out for us, obviously you have all the solutions, that would be great.
It's because we're so dumb that you can't work out a logical solution.
Well, you want to talk about a zombie who's worked out a logical solution?
I do.
Oh, yeah.
In my last spooky but true story. Okay. It's a wood frog. Now, you're asking zombie frogs. I know. Your mind is turning. You're like, what are the zombie frogs doing? Where do they come from? They come from North America. And these wood frogs actually freeze to the point of dying every winter. All of their body functions stop, but they have an element in their body that acts like an antifreeze. So they just thaw. And when they thaw, that function just picks up again. So they resurrect every spring.
Whoa.
So wood frogs, incredibly cool amphibians that live right in our continent, and they will freeze all winter to the point of death and then thaw and come back alive in a cool zombie way.
Yeah.
Don't ask me questions about wood frogs, Mark. That's all I know about them.
Yeah. I'm just curious if someone's ever studied the brain activity of a wood frog when they're frozen, like if it completely goes to zero.
It goes to zero, Mark. See, that I do know. Their heart stops. They don't breathe. They have no brain activity. And this element is called cryoprotectants, which is an element like glucose that acts as antifreeze. And then, when temperatures get warmer, they hop away, just living their life.
Cool.
I wonder when they thaw out, if they even realized that they were frozen dead guy.
Yes, they have realized they started a movie called Encino Man, and they are back. And no, I really don't know. I'm sure that there's a lot of cool research going on, because I imagine that scientists would want to study this for humans' benefit at some point too. But the fact that they can fully thaw and then come back to life is just spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the whole basis of cryogenically being frozen, right? And I think frozen for folks not in Colorado, there's a big festival every year. It used to be in Nederland, Colorado. Now it's in Estes Park, called Frozen Dead Guy. And I think this guy had froze himself.
Yep.
And in hopes of coming back at some point. And so
seems like Ryan knows what actually happened to him, Mark.
Yeah, do you know more?
Yeah, he wanted to cryogenically preserve himself so he could be brought back in the future. And I think they had him in like this shed for a while up there or something like that, where they would just keep adding, cryogenic fluid to it and keeping him frozen. But it sounds like over the years, maybe it hasn't worked as well. There might be some degradation. I don't know.
Did you remember to put the liquid in?
Yeah.
Ryan, I told you. Just one day and the whole thing goes down the tube.
Yeah, it's like those jars, specimen jars, where they start falling apart after a while.
But I'm sure there is all kind of research being done there, because it has huge implications for those who would want to be frozen and come out and wake up. Another movie reference, that Demolition Man, that happened.
Wow, that is a treat. And much like Jane Goodall, I know some people that we could freeze and see if it works out.
Oh, and accidentally trip on the cord and
oh no, too dark, Mark. Too dark. Well, I think that concludes our spooky myths and spooky but true. Any final dad jokes you want to share with us that you've been thinking about over this past podcast episode?
No, I promise to do better next time and bring more. But I'm glad I got the werewolf one in.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And thanks for joining us again, Ryan, for our spooky episode of October.
Thanks for having me.
What a treat, if you will.
Not a trick. Until next time. Bye.
This has been an episode of The Wildlife Wire with me, Mark Searles, and my co-host, Samantha Miller. Thank you for listening.